All right, guys, you got to take a look at this clip from CNBC. This is crazy. So Matt Novak tweeted the following. It's surreal to watch financial news talk about regular people having money to spend and job security as a negative thing. If you ever needed convincing that the health of the economy is a conspiracy against working people, watch this clip from CNBC that just aired. So I think this commentary here nails it. It's astonishing. Their assumptions about what is good economically and what is bad. Watch this.
Yeah, slogging for the first 6 months, more slogging.
Yes, Joe. Thank you for having me, and good morning, everyone. I do think it will be a slog for the first half, certainly, of 23. So people who are coming out of 22 with that exhaustion you were mentioning should get ready for some more. We think it's going to be a slog for the Fed. We think it's going to be a slog for the markets. You know, Carol mentioned the consumer. The consumer is just really still very strong. They have cash balances at the banks that are 30% above where they were pre-pandemic. Even when you look at the lower income cohorts, they're still 12 to 15% above where they were pre-pandemic. So they have cash to spend. They've certainly demonstrated a desire to spend. We're seeing that. What they're spending on is changing, and they're moving more to experiences than goods, but they're spending, and they have confidence to spend because the jobs market is about as good as we've seen in the last 40 or 50 years. So they have a job, and they have confidence that they can get another job if they need to. So that's a really tough nut for the Fed to crack when the U.S. consumer is 70% of the economy. And so we think this is going to take time, and this is going to be a real slog for the next 8 to 9 months. Yes, the market is a discounting mechanism, and it will look forward, but we're not close to cutting. We're not close to pivot yet. And right now the market thinks we cut in November, and that's just too soon.
So she's very clearly talking about working people having money there like it's a bad thing, like it's a negative thing for the economy, for the markets. They talk about the markets like it's some sort of a evil, satanic, overlord, god-type figure that you need to make child sacrifices to. I mean, like, this clip was from the fucking Twilight Zone. By the way, we're going to get to in a second what she says about, like, oh, you know, people in the middle are actually doing really fucking well now. Like, all that stuff is cherry-picked facts, which totally misses the overall picture. It's not true at all. People are still struggling. But look at this. She thinks, well, you know, working people are doing really, really well, and man, doesn't that suck for the stock market? Doesn't that suck for the Fed? Doesn't that suck for inflation? Doesn't that suck for the economy? Like, I don't know, man, these people got too much money and they're spending, you know, the consumers are doing really well, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good. It's a tough nut to crack. I think those are the words that she used. This is fucking psychopathic, man. This is crazy. Now, all right, to the main claim. Well, the main claim is that isn't the middle class doing great? And oh boy, isn't that a problem, right? And that on its face is like just fucking evil. But I take issue with even the premise. They're like, oh, you know, everybody's doing great. Look at this. 63% of Americans say they're living paycheck to paycheck. It's in a survey, December 15th, 2022. 56% of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency. Isn't that crazy? January 19th, 2022. So this one's a little bit old, but it's the most recent one I could find. It's probably about the same number now. 56% can't cover a $1,000 emergency. Credit card debt in the U.S. hits all-time high of $930 billion. And we're not even talking about medical debt here. We're not even talking about student loan debt, which Biden, to his credit, tried to reduce some of it, but it looks like the courts are going to now block that. This idea, I mean, she is apoplectic and outraged at the notion that, you know, some people in the middle class have some money that they're spending. She thinks that's a bad thing. And so she wants to take what I just showed you here, all these facts. She wants to take this fact, and this fact, and make them worse. Because in her mind, working people are just doing too well right now, and that's our problem. And by the way, just so you understand, This isn't some random schmuck on CNBC and that's it. This isn't just some like business commentator. No, this is also the position of the Federal Reserve. And the Fed is continuing to jack up interest rates. And the whole reason for them to do that is to induce a recession, so they hope they can then in turn lower inflation. They want quote-unquote price stability, and they're trying to induce a recession, which means kick millions of people out of their jobs. They think that's the right thing to do. They think that's what's good for the country. And by the way, I don't even think that their approach to this is the correct approach. Because if inflation is driven more by the supply chain and corporate profits and monopolies, then you're not addressing any of those things. So by raising interest rates as much as they are and continuing to do it, we might get to a place where we have stagflation, which is both inflation at the same time you have a recession, a stagnating economy. So that it looks like that's what we're going towards, because they don't want to address the actual problem because they don't think it is a problem, right? They don't think monopolies are a problem. They don't think corporate price gouging is a problem, even though corporations just hit literal record profits. They don't think the supply chain is the problem. They think the problem is hot labor market. And isn't it terrible that these people have all this extra wealth now? I mean, the middle class is doing too well. That's the issue. We have to stop that. Man, what a fucking psychopathic video that was. Jesus Christ. And they just say this stuff out loud. But you gotta understand, the reason why they get away with this on that network is because, like, you know who watches CNBC? It's all, like, top 1% goons, Wall Street types, CEOs, the people who actually have investments, the people who care more about the stock market than they do their neighbor, their working neighbor. That's who watches it. So they're preaching to the choir. Really, really crazy stuff.